She was about to be fired by the coldest CEO in Korea, until her baby looked straight at him and screamed the one word that destroyed his world: Dada. He was the ice emperor who never felt anything, until a baby he'd never met called him daddy. She knew the truth before anyone. Drop a like if you're already shocked. Story gets crazier in 3 minutes. The sound of Zoe's cries echoed through the sleek hallway of Park Enterprises like a siren. God, please stop crying. Please, baby. Maya whispered frantically, bouncing her 14-month-old daughter against her hip. Desperation etched across her face. Sweat beaded along her hairline as she ducked into the small break room, trying to calm her wailing child. She had 30 minutes, just 30 minutes, before her presentation to the executive team, and everything was falling apart. When the daycare called at 5 a.m. about the gas leak closing their facility, Maya had spent 2 frantic hours calling everyone she knew. Her mother was visiting relatives in Chicago. Her neighbor was working a double shift at the hospital. Even the college student down the hall who sometimes watched Zoe was away at a family wedding. No one could help. No one was available. And Maya couldn't miss this presentation. Not when CEO Park had specifically requested her presence. Not when her entire future at the company balanced on the edge of a knife. Zoe, please, she begged, kissing her forehead, wiping the tears from her chubby cheeks. Just a few hours, baby. Mommy just needs a few hours. The other employees in the break room scattered like startled birds, their eyes wide with panic. Everyone knew what would happen if Minjun Park, the infamous ice emperor of the Korean business world, heard a baby crying in his perfectly silent, perfectly ordered corporate headquarters. Maya, hygiene from accounting hissed, her voice low with warning. You need to get her quiet. Mr. Park just arrived in the lobby. Maya's heart plummeted. Mr. Park was early. He was never early. He was exactly on time always, not a minute before, not a second after. But today, the one day she needed those extra 30 minutes, he decided to break his own pattern. I'm trying, Maya whispered back, voice cracking with anxiety. I've tried everything. She's teething and she didn't sleep, and she can sense I'm stressed. Well, try harder. If Mr. Park hears her. If Mr. Park hears what? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees in an instant. Every person froze, eyes widening in terror. Minjun Park stood in the doorway, his tall frame blocking the exit like the physical manifestation of judgment itself. His bespoke charcoal suit hung perfectly from his broad shoulders, not a wrinkle in sight. His black hair was immaculately styled, not a strand out of place. And his eyes, those cold, assessing eyes, swept across the room with clinical detachment before landing on Maya and her crying baby. Sir, hygiene began, but fell silent when Mr. Park raised one hand slightly. The gesture was barely perceptible, yet it carried the weight of absolute authority. I asked a question, he said, his voice deadly quiet. That was the thing about Minjun Park. He never yelled, never shouted. His anger came in whispers, in that soft, controlled voice that somehow cut deeper than any scream ever could. Zoe chose that exact moment to let out another wail, her little face red with the effort, tiny fists clenched tight. Ms. Williams, Mr. Park said, eyes fixed on Maya. I believe I made the company policy on personal matters quite clear during your onboarding 6 months ago. Maya swallowed hard, her throat suddenly desert dry. Yes, sir. And yet, there appears to be an infant in my break room. It wasn't a question. It didn't need to be. The judgment was clear in every perfectly enunciated syllable. The daycare had an emergency closure, Maya managed, unconsciously pulling Zoe closer to her chest, as if she could somehow shield her from the CEO's icy stare. Gas leak. I tried everyone I know, but it's so early, and my presentation for the day 1 account. My office. Now. Just those 3 words. No emotion, no inflection. Just a command that brooked no argument, no negotiation. Then he turned and walked away, knowing, she would follow. Maya's legs trembled as she gathered Zoe's diaper bag. This was it. She was going to be fired. 14 months of struggling as a single mother, of working twice as hard as everyone else just to prove herself, of surviving on 4 hours of sleep and convenience store meals. All of it wasted. And for what? Because the universe decided today was the day everything would fall apart? The walk to Minjun Park's corner office felt like a death march. Zoe continued to cry, each sob driving another nail into the coffin of Maya's career. The other employees avoided her eyes as she passed, their faces a mixture of pity and relief that it wasn't them walking toward execution. If you're watching this story unfold, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. Can you feel the tension? Hit subscribe now to see what happens when this powerful CEO meets his match in an unexpected way. Mr. Park's office was exactly what you'd expect from a man known as the Ice Emperor: minimalist, monochromatic, meticulously organized. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Seoul's skyline, the morning sun glinting off distant towers. Not a single personal item marred the perfect symmetry of his desk. No photos, no mementos. Nothing to suggest a life existed beyond these walls. He was standing by the window when she entered, his back to her, hands clasped behind him as he surveyed the city like a general assessing a battlefield. "Close the door, Ms. Williams." Maya obeyed, juggling Zoe and the diaper bag awkwardly as she pushed the heavy door shut with her hip. The sound of it closing echoed with a terrible finality. "Sir, I can explain. Your child is still crying, Ms. Williams." Maya bounced Zoe desperately, shushing her, pressing kisses to her hair. "I know, sir. I'm sorry. She's teething, and she missed her morning nap, and I am not interested in excuses." Minjun turned, his expression unchanged, unreadable. "You've worked for me for 6 months. In that time, you've proven yourself competent, thorough, and reliable. Until today. Sir, please. I don't give second chances, Ms. Williams. You're aware of this. Everyone is aware of this." Zoe's cries grew louder, more insistent. Maya felt tears pricking at her own eyes, but she fought them back fiercely. She wouldn't cry. Not here. Not in front of him. "Give me the child." Maya blinked, certain she'd misheard. "Excuse me? The child, Ms. Williams. Give her to me." Her arms tightened instinctively around Zoe. "Sir, I don't think. That wasn't a request." Minjun Park stepped forward, arms extended, and Maya felt her world tilt sideways. Was he going to physically remove her daughter from the building? Was this some kind of power play to demonstrate his complete control? But his hands, when they reached for Zoe, were unexpectedly gentle. "Sir, she doesn't like strangers. She'll just cry harder if—" Zoe's head suddenly popped up from Maya's shoulder. Her crying stopped abruptly, like someone had flipped a switch. Her tear-stained face turned toward Minjun Park with an expression of recognition. Before Maya could process what was happening, Zoe was lunging out of her arms, chubby hands reaching for the CEO with an urgency that made absolutely no sense. Maya tried to hold on to her, stammering apologies, but Zoe was determined. "No, Zoe, no. I'm so sorry, Mr. Park. She's never like this. I don't know what. Let her go." There was something different in Minjun's voice now, something Maya had never heard before. An emotion she couldn't identify in a man she'd thought incapable of emotion. Reluctantly, she loosened her grip, and Zoe practically threw herself into Minjun Park's arms. The sight was so incongruous, so utterly bizarre that Maya could only stare in mute shock. The Ice Emperor of Park Enterprises, a man rumored to have fired an executive for sneezing during a presentation, was holding her daughter with the practiced ease of someone familiar with children. Zoe immediately settled, her little body relaxing against Minjun's broad chest. She reached up one tiny hand and patted the CEO's perfectly shaved cheek. "Dada," Zoe said clearly, happily. "Dada. If you're screaming right now, smash that like button. Comment Dada and where you watching from. If you felt that in your soul. Keep watching, the real twist hits soon." The world stopped. Minjun Park froze, his entire body going rigid. Something flashed across his face. Shock, disbelief, and something deeper. Something raw that disappeared so quickly Maya almost thought she'd imagined it. She's never said that before, Maya whispered, horrified. Mr. Park, I'm so sorry. She's just learning to talk. She doesn't know what she's saying. Her father isn't. She's never even met her father. If you're as shocked as Maya right now, drop a comment below. What could possibly explain Zoe's reaction? Subscribe and hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss what happens next in this incredible story. Minjun didn't respond. He was staring at Zoe with an intensity that made Maya's skin prickle. The baby, completely oblivious to the tension, snuggled closer, resting her head against Minjun's shoulder as if she belonged there, as if she had found exactly where she was supposed to be. The father, Minjun finally said, his voice carefully controlled. Tell me about him. Maya's chest tightened. This was not a conversation she wanted to have with her boss, especially not with her boss holding her daughter, especially not after her daughter had just called him Dada. But Minjun Park's question hadn't sounded like curiosity. It had sounded like a demand. American, she said stiffly. He was here on business when we met. He went back to the States when I was 4 months pregnant. He doesn't know about Zoe. Doesn't want to know. Name? Why does that matter? Minjun's eyes narrowed slightly. You're questioning me, Ms. Williams? No, sir. I just don't see how it's relevant to my employment status. Your employment status. Minjun repeated the words slowly, as if testing them. Yes, let's discuss that. He adjusted his hold on Zoe, supporting the baby more securely against his chest. Zoe made a small, contented sound and closed her eyes. She was falling asleep, in Minjun Park's arms. In under a minute, Mr. Park, said his assistant from the doorway. The executive team is waiting in the conference room. Reschedule. Sir. The quarterly presentation. I said reschedule. The assistant's eyes widened, but she nodded quickly and withdrew, closing the door behind her. Minjun walked to his desk, still holding the now sleeping Zoe, and sat down in his leather chair. He studied Maya for a long moment, his expression unreadable. You need a better arrangement, he said finally. Sir. This, he gestured to Zoe, cannot happen again, but your work has been exceptional, and I don't waste valuable assets. Maya's heart lurched painfully. Are you not firing me? No, I'm promoting you. The words hit like a physical blow. I don't understand. You'll be my executive assistant. The office adjacent to mine is empty. You'll work there starting tomorrow. Your salary will be doubled. A childcare allowance will be added to your compensation package. Maya couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. This made no sense. None of this made any sense. Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Something flickered in Minjun's eyes as he looked down at Zoe. Because your daughter needs stability, and you need resources to provide it. But you don't even know me, or her. Minjun's gaze returned to Maya, and for a fleeting second, she thought she saw something almost like pain cross his features. Perhaps I know more than you think, Ms. Williams. Before she could respond, he stood, carefully transferring the sleeping Zoe back into her arms. The baby stirred slightly but didn't wake. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Bring her medical records and birth certificate. For company insurance. Yes, sir. And Ms. Williams? One last thing. Minjun straightened his already perfect tie. The father's name. I still want it. Maya hesitated, then lifted her chin defiantly. Michael Chun. But it doesn't matter. He doesn't matter. Something passed over Minjun's face. Something that looked almost like relief? You're dismissed. This story is just getting started. Where are you watching from? Comment below and let us know what you think is happening. Subscribe now so you don't miss a single moment of this emotional journey. The days turned into weeks. The weeks into months. Life settled into a rhythm Maya had never imagined possible. Her new salary meant a better apartment in a safer neighborhood. The childcare allowance meant Zoe had proper clothing, proper toys, proper everything. For the first time since becoming a mother, Maya didn't feel like she was drowning. And then there was Minjun Park. The Ice Emperor was changing. Not dramatically, not in ways most people would notice. But Maya noticed. She noticed how he stopped by her office every morning, ostensibly to review the day's schedule but inevitably ending up crouched beside Zoe, who spent the first hour of each day in Maya's office before Miss Kim arrived. She noticed how Zoe's face lit up every time Minjun entered the room, how she would toddle toward the CEO, arms raised, demanding to be picked up, how she would pat Minjun's face and say Dada, with such conviction that Maya had stopped trying to correct her. "He's good with her?" Miss Kim observed one afternoon, watching through the glass wall as Minjun showed Zoe the view from his office window, pointing out buildings and landmarks with the patience of a born teacher. "He's unexpected," Maya replied, not knowing how else to describe the contradiction that was Minjun Park. Ruthless in the boardroom, gentle with her daughter. "Some men are like that," Miss Kim said with a knowing smile. "They build walls so high no one can see over them, until someone small enough slips through the cracks." Maya wanted to ask more, but her tablet chimed with an urgent message. The day one contracts needed revisions before tomorrow's signing. By the time she looked up again, Minjun had returned Zoe to Miss Kim and was back at his desk, the mask of the Ice Emperor firmly in place once more. But the walls were cracking. Maya saw it in the small moments, in the way Minjun asked about Zoe's development milestones with careful casualness, in how he referred to pediatrician recommendations he happened to read, in the stuffed animals that mysteriously appeared in Zoe's play area, always of the highest quality, always perfectly age-appropriate. "I had a brother once," Minjun said one evening, when they were working late and Zoe had fallen asleep on the office sofa. "He would have been about Zoe's age when—" He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. The pain in his voice told Maya everything she needed to know. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "Don't be. It was a long time ago." He looked at Zoe, something raw and painful crossing his face. "But sometimes I wonder who he would have become." It was the most personal thing he had ever shared with her, the most human she had ever seen him, and it made the mystery of his interest in Zoe both clearer and more confusing. Can you believe how this story is unfolding? Drop a comment if you think there's more to Minjun's story than he's sharing. Where are you watching from? Subscribe now for the next part. Everything changed on a Tuesday. Maya was organizing files on her tablet when she accidentally opened a folder labeled Personal, MJP. She knew immediately she shouldn't be seeing this, knew she should close it and forget it existed. But a familiar name caught her eye, Michael Chen. Her fingers froze over the screen. Michael Chen, the name she had given Minjun when he asked about Zoe's father. Why was it in Minjun's personal files? Against every professional instinct, Maya began to read. Background check. Travel records. Medical history. Fertility clinic records from 3 years ago. Fertility clinic? Maya's heart began to pound as she scrolled through document after document. It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. Until suddenly, horribly, it did. She slammed the tablet down and burst into Minjun's office without knocking. Something she had never done. Something no one ever did. He looked up, momentarily startled. "Maya, what? You knew," she said, her voice shaking with fury. "You knew all along." Minjun's expression changed, closed off. He set down his pen with careful precision. "Knew what, exactly?" "About Zoe. About me. About everything." Her hands were trembling now. "You've been investigating me since before I even started working here, haven't you?" Minjun was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed, a sound so weary it momentarily doused the flames of Maya's anger. "Sit down, Maya." "I don't want to sit down. I want you to explain why you have a file on my daughter's father. Why you have medical records from a fertility clinic that I never told you about." "Why?" "Because I was there." 3 words. Just 3 words, but they hit Maya like a physical blow. "What?" 3 years ago, Seoul Medical Center, fertility wing. Minjun's voice was flat, emotionless. I had just been diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma. The doctors were concerned about fertility complications from the treatment. They recommended banking sperm. I did. Maya felt the room spinning around her. No, that's not possible. Michael Chun was a fiction. The clinic used donor codes, not names. For privacy. Minjun's eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw vulnerability there. When Zoe called me Dada that first day, I thought it was just a coincidence. A strange, impossible coincidence. But then I saw her birth certificate, the timing, and I started to wonder. So you had me followed? Investigated? You invaded my privacy without my knowledge or consent. I needed to know. And do you? No? Minjun nodded once, the movement almost imperceptible. The DNA test confirmed it 2 months ago. Zoe is my biological daughter. The world seemed to drop away beneath Maya's feet. She gripped the edge of Minjun's desk, suddenly lightheaded. DNA test? You took her DNA? How dare you? The pacifier she left in my office. I should have told you then. I wanted to, but I didn't know how. Maya laughed, a bitter, broken sound. Didn't know how? You're Minjun Park, the great ice emperor. You tell people their careers are over without blinking an eye. You destroy companies before breakfast. But you couldn't figure out how to tell me you're my daughter's biological father. Maya. No. She straightened, pulling all her fractured pieces back together through sheer force of will. Quit. Effective immediately. You'll have my final report by the end of the day. You can't quit. Watch me. She turned to leave, but Minjun's next words stopped her cold. The Lee Group is preparing a hostile takeover. If they succeed, the company will be dismantled. 5,000 people will lose their jobs, including you. If you're on the edge of your seat, drop a like below and let us know where you're watching from. What will Maya do now? Subscribe so you don't miss the resolution to this incredible story. Maya turned back slowly. What does that have to do with any of this? Everything. Minjun ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, the first sign of agitation she had ever seen from him. The attack is coming in 3 days. I need you here. I need your insights, your observations. He stopped abruptly. You need what? Maya pressed. Minjun's eyes found hers, and the raw honesty in them made her breath catch. I need you to give me a chance to explain, to make this right. For Zoe's sake, if not for mine. Before Maya could respond, her phone rang. Miss Kim's name flashed on the screen. Ms. Williams, it's Zoe. Miss Kim's voice was tight with worry. She's burning up with fever. The doctor is on his way, but she's asking for her father. She keeps crying for Dada. The pediatrician's face was grave as he examined Zoe, whose small body burned with fever. Pneumonia, he said. Severe. The hospital was the only option. On the second night, when Zoe's fever finally broke and she fell into her first peaceful sleep since arriving at the hospital, Maya felt her own exhaustion crash over her like a wave. She swayed slightly, catching herself on the edge of Zoe's bed. Sleep, Minjun said, appearing at her side as if he had been waiting for this moment. I'll watch her. I can't leave her. I'm not asking you to. The couch folds out. Sleep, Maya. I'll wake you if anything changes. Too tired to argue, Maya allowed herself to be led to the small couch. Minjun unfolded it with practiced efficiency, producing a blanket and pillow from somewhere. She sank onto the makeshift bed, intending only to rest her eyes for a moment. She woke hours later to sunlight streaming through the hospital window and the sound of quiet voices. Minjun was sitting beside Zoe's bed, reading from a children's book Maya didn't recognize. Zoe was awake, still pale but alert, giggling weakly at the funny voices Minjun was making for each character. Again, Zoe demanded when the story ended. Again, Dada. One more time, Minjun agreed, his voice gentle. Then you need to rest so you can get better. Maya lay still, watching them, There was no pretense here, no calculation. Just a man who had discovered he was a father, trying his best to comfort a sick child. A child who had somehow recognized him from the very beginning. She knew, she said quietly, sitting up. Somehow, Zoe knew you were her father. Minjun looked up, surprised to find her awake. Maya, the Lee group, she interrupted. You said they're planning a takeover in 3 days. Minjun's expression shifted, became guarded. Yes, tell me everything. As Zoe drifted back to sleep, Minjun explained the situation. The Lee group had been quietly buying shares for months. They had allies on the board, had been secretly meeting with key clients. Their plan was to call for a vote of no confidence, remove Minjun as CEO, then break up the company and sell off its most profitable divisions. They'll destroy everything I've built, Minjun said, his voice tight with controlled anger. Not just my career, but the livelihoods of thousands of employees. People with families, with children. People like me, Maya said softly. Maya studied him for a long moment. The great Minjun Park, asking her how to save his company. The Ice Emperor, looking at her not with command but with trust. We counterattack, she said finally. But I have conditions. Name them. Full transparency. About Zoe, about your health, about everything. No more secrets. Minjun nodded. Done. And when this is over, we discuss Zoe's future. Together. As equals. Is that all? For now. Minjun extended his hand. Partners. Maya hesitated, then took it. Partners. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind of strategy sessions, clandestine meetings, and carefully orchestrated countermoves. Zoe recovered quickly, as children often do, and was released from the hospital with orders for rest and continued antibiotics. Ms. Kim took charge of her care at Maya's apartment while Maya and Minjun worked tirelessly to save Park Enterprises. By the time they returned to Seoul, the tide had turned. The Day One Group publicly reaffirmed their exclusive partnership with Park Enterprises. 3 key board members withdrew their support for the Lee Group's takeover bid. And Minjun's cousin was escorted from the building by security, his access revoked, his career in shambles. The vote, when it came, was decisive. 11-2 in favor of retaining Minjun as CEO. Lee Jun-ho was removed from the board effective immediately. Park Enterprises would continue, stronger than before, its leadership reaffirmed. Come to dinner tonight, Minjun said suddenly. Bring Zoe. Minjun. Please. That single word, not a command but a request, decided her. Okay. Dinner. This story keeps getting more intense. Hit that subscribe button right now to see where this unexpected connection leads. Comment where you're watching from. We want to hear from you. Minjun's home was not what Maya had expected. Instead of the sleek, sterile penthouse she had imagined, it was a traditional hanok on the outskirts of Seoul, modernized inside, but still retaining its classic architecture and peaceful garden. Zoe was delighted by the koi pond, squatting beside it with childish fascination as the colorful fish swam beneath the surface. This house has been in my family for 4 generations, Minjun said, watching Zoe with a soft expression Maya had once thought him incapable of. I grew up here with my parents and brother. After they died, I nearly sold it. But something stopped me. It's beautiful, Maya said honestly. Peaceful. It was meant for a family. Minjun's eyes found hers. It's been empty for too long. The implication hung in the air between them, unspoken but unmistakable. When Zoe was settled for the night, they moved to the garden. Night had fallen, and lanterns illuminated the stone path and the small pavilion overlooking the pond. Minjun poured tea for both of them, his movements precise, almost ceremonial. You promised transparency, Maya reminded him. About your health. The cancer. In remission for 2 years now. Regular checkups, clean scans. Minjun set down his cup. I was 28 when I was diagnosed. The treatment was aggressive, the prognosis uncertain. Banking sperm was a precaution I never expected to need. And now, Now I find myself a father to a child I never knew existed. A child who somehow recognized me on sight. He looked at her, really looked at her. A child whose mother is the most remarkable woman I've ever met. Maya felt her cheeks warm. Min-jun, let me finish, please. He took a deep breath. I know I've done this all wrong. I should have told you the moment I suspected. Should have approached you honestly instead of manipulating the situation. I have no excuse except that I was afraid. You? Afraid? Maya couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. The great Min-jun Park? Terrified, he admitted quietly. Terrified that if I told you the truth, you'd take Zoe and disappear. Terrified that I'd lose my daughter before I ever really knew her. Terrified that you'd see me as nothing but a DNA donor and not as someone who could be a real father to her. The raw honesty in his voice struck Maya speechless. This was not the Ice Emperor speaking. This was just a man, flawed, vulnerable, human. What do you want, Min-jun? Really want? A chance. He reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of hers. A chance to be Zoe's father. A chance to show you who I really am, beyond the office, beyond the reputation. A chance to see if what's growing between us might become something meaningful. And if I say no, then I'll respect your decision. I'll provide for Zoe financially. See her when you allow it. Be as much or as little a part of her life as you're comfortable with. His eyes held hers steadily. But I hope you don't say no. Maya was silent for a long moment, considering everything that had happened in the whirlwind of the past months. The strange, inexplicable bond between Zoe and this man. The glimpses she'd caught of the person beneath the Ice Emperor facade. The way Min-jun had stayed at the hospital, reading stories until his voice grew hoarse. The way he looked at Zoe with wonder, with tenderness, with love. I don't know what this is, she said finally, gesturing between them. I don't know if it's just gratitude on my part, or guilt on yours, or some bizarre circumstance throwing two unlikely people together. Does it matter if it becomes something real in the end? Maya thought about that. I guess not. But I need time. We need time. Zoe needs stability, not confusion. Min-jun nodded. Time I can give. We'll go as slowly as you need. A small smile touched his lips. Though I'm not sure Zoe is as patient as we are. She seems to have made up her mind already. Maya couldn't help but smile back. She's stubborn, like her father apparently, and perceptive, like her mother. She finally reached out, letting her hand rest lightly on his. A beginning, not a promise. But perhaps someday it could be both. 1 year later, Zoe ran ahead on sturdy legs, chasing a butterfly through the garden of the hammock that had become her home. Maya called after her, laughing as the now 2-year-old zigzagged between stone lanterns and flowering bushes. I've got her, Min-jun said, emerging from the house. He scooped Zoe into his arms, spinning her around as the toddler shrieked with delight. In the year since the truth had been revealed, Min-jun had changed in ways both subtle and profound. The Ice Emperor still ruled Park Enterprises with uncompromising standards, but he left that persona at the office door. At home, he was simply Appa to Zoe and something much more complex to Maya. You're spoiling her? Maya said as Min-jun carried Zoe back to her, the toddler already babbling about the butterfly's colors. That's my job? Min-jun replied, pressing a kiss to Zoe's forehead before turning those dark eyes on Maya. And spoiling you is also my job, though you make it considerably more difficult. I don't need spoiling. Need and deserve are different things. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, while Zoe patted both their cheeks with sticky hands. More, Zoe demanded. More kisses. They laughed, and for a moment, the world wasn't complicated or difficult or uncertain. It was just them. A family forged in the most unexpected way, through a child's instinctive recognition of what the adults around her had missed, that sometimes love is simply a matter of seeing past the walls people build, to the person they truly are inside. That evening, after Zoe was asleep, Min-jun found Maya sitting in the garden pavilion, watching the moonlight on the koi pond. He sat beside her, taking her hand in his with the casual intimacy that had developed between them over the months of careful courtship. "I have something to ask you," he said, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. Maya turned to him, smiling. "That sounds serious." "It is." He produced a small box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a ring that caught the lantern light and threw it back in dazzling sparks. "This was my mother's. I'd like it to be yours." Maya's breath caught. "Min-jun." "I'm not asking because of Zoe, though she's the reason we found each other. I'm asking because this year has shown me who I want to be and who I want to be with." His eyes held hers, open and vulnerable in a way the world never saw. "I love you, Maya, not just as Zoe's mother, but as the woman who saw past the Ice Emperor to the man underneath. The woman who challenges me, surprises me, makes me better every day." Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. "I never expected this. Any of this. When Zoe called you Dada that first day, I thought my life was ending. I never imagined it was just beginning. Is that a yes?" She laughed, a sound of pure joy. "Yes, of course it's yes." As Min-jun slipped the ring onto her finger, Maya thought about the strange, winding path that had led them here. A desperate single mother with a teething baby. A cold CEO with a hidden past. A child who somehow knew, from the very first moment, exactly who belonged in her life. "Zoe will be thrilled," Min-jun said, pulling her close. "Though I'm not sure she'll understand the difference. She's been calling us a family since she could string words together." "Smart kid," Maya murmured against his shoulder. "Maybe we should listen to her more often." "I always listen to her. She has her mother's wisdom and her father's stubbornness." They held each other under the moonlight, the future stretching before them like the garden path. Not always straight, not always smooth, but leading home all the same. A home built not on biology or circumstance, but on choice, on trust, on love that came in the most unexpected package. A baby's recognition of the father she had never met, but somehow always known. So, what do you think of this incredible journey? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. Was this the love story you were expecting? Like this video if you want to see more stories like this, and subscribe, because we've got even more incredible content coming your way. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most unexpected connections are the ones that change our lives forever.